It's really cool to have the full circle moment, right? And
Mhm,
having mom, she watches every game that I work, and
mhm,
not from an observer standpoint. She's just proud of her son, but she'll be the
absolutely.
first one to tell me when I mess something up, and then there's no sugarcoating it either.
This podcast is intended solely for educational and discussion purposes. The content shared within this program is not meant to embarrass, criticize, or humiliate any official, coach, team, conference, or fan. Our goal is to educate, inform, and promote a deeper understanding of the art and the profession of officiating, providing insight that benefits all who love and support the game. Well, I want to say welcome everyone to another episode of The Play is the Play. I have a great guest with me today, and this is going to be really, really fun because this young man, obviously, he's on my staff. He's one of my veterans. He's a crew chief. He's an NCAA Division One referee. He's one of my tournament referees that works my conference tournaments. I say, but with him, he has a unique background that I just thought it was something that we should just talk about because it's not too often that you have a referee who grew up as a young kid watching his parents be a referee. So it was in his genes to start, and I'm going to have him come on and we're just going to have a candid conversation. Scott, I just want you to know how you have just grown and how you have matured and how now I just look at you, how you're mentoring um, a large number of all of our referees, not only in San Diego, because you're from the San Diego area, but it really doesn't matter. You do it all over. I said, you're one of my staffers at my basic ref school. So you're just all in it. And I just really appreciate just how you have taken all of this in stride and how you have just developed. You've developed yourself, and now you're helping me develop the young referees on our staff. But it's just a unique background where you have legacy, you have influence, you have early exposure to officiating that's different than probably 99%, 99.9 of the officials on our staff. So, Scott Osborne, welcome. And I'm so happy to have you be a part of our Keeping It Real segment on The Play is to Play. What you got for us?
Well, what a introduction there, V. Thanks for having me on. I've really enjoyed watching the pod as it's growing as well, and just been a tremendous opportunity to be a part of this staff and to really give back some of the things that was given to me. That's been a part of who I am, and it's a part of who we are as a staff, and it's just been really a great opportunity and a lot of fun. A lot of fun to be myself and kind of give back what was given to me.
You know what? And I like that you say be yourself because I think that's what I've learned and just in my leadership style. I really try my best to get to know individually who my referees are, what they can bring to the staff because what I'm learning is that we have some very very influential referees, not only in officiating, but they do other things. And I think we'll kind of get into it because the other good thing that with you, you're almost like a golf pro, which is so unique in what we do because one thing we know, referees love playing golf. And I think for myself, I got a chance to experience you even teaching a lot of our referees. We have tournaments and we go to Top Golf as a staff for like a little social outing and how you were able just to teach everyone to help them with their swing when we were playing Top Golf. So we'll kind of get into that too. But I think the most unique thing that I love about you is that you were born into officiating as a child and not knowing if you would like it, but for some reason you did. And the bug bit you. So just kind of talk about your parents and how you grew up in officiating, what they did, and how you kind of got into it.
Yeah, and it's one of those things, Violet, where I wasn't sure I was gonna like it because the game
Mhm.
of basketball took mom and dad away from me when I was young. So when I was a kid, mom and dad were on the road refereeing. They were in the basketball business. They ran tournaments, and when you're 5, 6, 7 years old, you just want mom and dad
Mhm.
at home.
Right.
And fortunately for me, I just wanted to do whatever my parents were doing. And that just meant that I had to get on a plane or I had to get in the car and I had to go sit at a gym and I had to go watch basketball. So I grew up in the gym. I grew up in the car rides with my dad. I grew up in the car rides with my mom going to the arenas. I was going to be that kid that was going to be anywhere dad was going. And fortunately, dad allowed me to do that. Not too many parents bring their kids on the road at that age. And I went all over the country, all over the world with my father. Times were maybe a little different then, but I was welcomed. I was welcome into locker rooms. I was welcome into arenas. Fortunate enough to sit on benches with teams. And I don't know that I was aware of, my surroundings so much at the time, other than I was with dad at work. And it
Mhm.
was it was different than my friends whose parents went and maybe did a job somewhere else where they clocked in and clocked out. And I just saw the passion and the enjoyment that my father had for what he did. And obviously for my mom, the same exact thing. She had a little bit different of a story as a player. My dad wasn't
Mhm.
quite the player that my mom was, but
Sure.
they brought just two really interesting perspectives of the game of basketball. And I was thrown into this at a very early age. And not really sure if I wanted to be a referee. I just wanted to do what mom and dad did because they looked like they loved it.
Wow. Now, mind you, as a kid, did you grow up listening to rules and the mechanics of what we do? Because like you said, you were in the car with your dad. So obviously I'm sure there were some times where he had partners in the car. And you're that little kid in the back seat just listening. When did because I know you had to hear a lot of different stories as far as the ins and outs of being a referee. So you got it on a totally different level before you even got into it. Like you said, you were in the car, you were sitting on benches, you were in arenas watching, your mom and dad. And it's very unique because, your dad refereed, but your mom actually played before she got into refereeing as well. So you were able to see it on both sides, which is kind of interesting too. And I have to say that even for myself personally, when I was that young up and coming referee, your mom and dad, I worked their tournaments. The tournaments that they had in Hawaii on all the different islands. I was that young referee from LA, flying to Kona, flying to Maui, flying to Honolulu, working all of your parents' tournaments. Because
Yeah.
again, being from LA and your parents being on the West, I had that opportunity. They gave me that opportunity as a young referee to do some traveling, and these were independent tournaments. So they had nothing to do with, being a part of any particular conference. They were all independent, which now they're called MTEs. Back in the day when your parents were doing them, they were just outside tournaments that you could be selected to go work. And, you went if you were asked, if you were invited, you actually went and worked. So I was one of those young referees that actually was able to receive that exposure and even learn how to do the travel outside of just California. Because your parents always had tournaments on the islands, which everybody loved. Who doesn't want to go to Maui? Who doesn't want to go to Honolulu? Who doesn't want to go to Kona? I went to all of them in very, very young in my career, but I was able to referee with really talented veteran referees, and I was a kid. I was like you. I was so new, probably in my 5th year as a Division I referee, might have been a little younger than that because I was very fortunate because I caught on quick, I learned very fast, so I received a lot of different ways of getting in that is really, really kinda difficult now for referees, but for you, talk about that exposure and having that little ear, being that kid, in the car or that kid in the locker room, and like you said, nowadays, you know, yeah, for some parents, they're able to bring their kids in the locker room because, if one of my referees said, "Hey, I got my son with me or my daughter. Could I bring him in the locker room?" I would say, "Of course, yes, you could." But obviously back during the time you did it, it was easy. No one even questioned it. Your dad could just have you tag along and come in and sit and listen. And so how did that all help you get into this world of officiating?
Yeah, and I mean, I'll go back to those Hawaii tournaments, right? I can remember you being there. I was gracious. I was probably 7 years old, with a pair of snorkels and some flip-flops running around the island trying to find something. But, the typical conversations that we would have as a family, let's say after the tournament, the day of games are done, And you know
Mhm.
how it is with all the referees. We all know how it is. You don't come back and go have dinner and you don't talk about how great the teams were. We come back and talk about how great we were or how bad we were and what we could have done
Absolutely.
better. And I can always remember being that 7 to 13, 14-year-old boy sitting at the table going, gosh, guys, are we done talking about that block charge play that was in the 7 o'clock game? It's closing in on midnight. But little did I know I was getting the perspective, like you were saying, of veteran officials working some major college basketball. And this is before video, right? So they
Mhm.
couldn't bust out their iPads or their laptops. And we're sitting there and I'm getting to hear some of the people that I look up to in officiating talking about how they could referee that play better. And
Mhm.
the lens of how do you grow as an official and to be a fly on that wall, many young officials would pay money for, and I'm getting this just thrown at me left and right and breaking down the midnight oil on plays and rules. And, I'll give you a good one is, the little pictures we have in the manual, the push and the hold and that right there.
Yes. Uh-huh.
Mom's an educator, right? So I can remember in the 1st grade, she had those made out and put on the table, and she asked my sister and my brother and I, "Hey, could you tell me which one's a push?" And that's how that got in the manual because it needed
Really?
to be illustrated clearly, and I can remember vividly on the dinner table, she's got all these little it was called clip art back then, and there
I
wasn't,
remember
graphic
that.
great graphic design, but she wanted it to be so easily illustrated that a 1st grader could figure out what is a hold and what is a trip and what is a push. And as a young person, I'm sitting there going, okay, mom, this is that and this is that. So from a very early age, I was kind of indoctrinated into just at a simple level, this is a push
Mhm.
and this is a hold. And then the higher level conversations came from just being able to be a part of my parents' business and being able to travel with. And I wasn't asking a whole lot of questions then because I didn't really know what was going on, but I was a sponge. I was soaking it all up, and very, very fortunate in hindsight that that was my training before my training. And there was just endless hours of conversation with Final Four officials, professional
Mm.
officials at the pro level, yourself, countless others that I was just very, very fortunate to be raised around. And everybody looked out for me like I was one of them too, even at a young age. So it was
Mhm.
really cool. Before I even blew a whistle, I had all of that education bestowed upon me.
Well, it's so funny that you say that because you had the exposure and the preparation before you even wanted to be a referee because you were just thrown in it, being the love of basketball. And obviously for you, you really wasn't thinking about, well, I'm a referee one day. You were like, no, I just want to hang out with my dad. I just want to,
Right.
it's almost like I want to be that kid that goes to work with his dad. But what was interesting is that you were that sponge and you were sitting in the car or in the locker room and you're listening to the preparation and you're listening to pre-games and you're you were exposed to after the referee's work that we didn't, like you said, there was no video back then. So all you saw and all you heard was they would work the game. After the game, we would either get together, we would either go to a bar, we would either go back to a hotel room, and they would have these conversations about the night or the game or the situation
Right.
or something that happened in the game. So you saw at the earliest stages of officiating, and you hadn't even made that decision yet, the preparation, the hard work, the work ethic of what you had to do to be a top level official before you were even thrown in there, which is really, really unique because like for myself, all I knew is that I love basketball. And as soon as someone said, and I was a recreation major, so I was always around youth leagues and adult leagues, and I was scorekeeping. So obviously for me, getting that bite, was one day my referee was late. What do? You go in the back of the office, you put the shirt on, Scott, and then you go out there because you got to keep the games on time. And you know that because I used to come to Palm Springs and work your mom's tournaments. I used to be in Palm Springs almost all summer working when I was
Right.
a young referee working on my craft because that's
Sure.
what you did back then. That was the preparation. And you didn't care what level you worked. You didn't care who you worked with. You didn't care if it was men or women. It didn't matter to us. All we wanted to do was have a tournament and someone gave us an opportunity and we would go referee. So for you, when did, like you said, you were 7 when you started, and I'm sure there was a couple of years throughout. When did you really, get the bug and say, "You know what, dad?" I don't know if you said it to your dad or your mom. "I think I wanna try this." When did that start?
Well, this is gonna be surprising, but I was really raised in the YMCA out in Palm Springs,
Mm,
and I was heavily involved in all of the programs at the YMCA. I spent every weekend, every summer there, and it was actually the
mhm,
director of the YMCA that really said, "Hey, Scott," I because he knew what mom and dad did, and he goes, "Hey, I've got this opportunity for you. Would you like to come referee some games?" And of course, it was, little bitty kids game, half court, making sure their shoes are tied. And that's really where I got my start was when I figured out I could go make me, $20 a game on a Saturday, do 8 or 9 games. But the dangerous part is that I was armed with all of this knowledge of officiating, and
mhm.
now I'm trying to apply that level of what I think the job is to little bitty kids games. So initially the bug didn't get me right away because I think I knew too much maybe
Mhm.
for the level of
That
game that
can
I might have been assigned to. And I didn't really take it seriously until probably I moved to San Diego and got involved with the high school association.
mm,
And I started working and I was doing really well. And to answer your question, the bug really got me when I was put in the front of the classroom with the high school association. And I
you
was
know what's
instructional chair.
funny? Wow. You say that, Scott? How about, it's interesting how our paths are different, but they're very similar. Because for me, being a player and then didn't want to play anymore, and I had a friend. I was recreation, like I said, I used to, score keep, and then I had someone say to me the same thing, like almost like what you said. Hey, you know what? Have you thought about being a referee? And I'm like, oh no, no, I'm a player. I ain't ready for that yet. But literally after I finished and I went, "You know what? I tried some intramurals in college," and I said, "Let me try this." Kinda did the same thing like you did, and still not
Yeah.
taking it serious, just working the youth league, City of Placentia. I'll never forget. I used to work Saturday and Sunday. I used to do about 9 games a day, the little kids. And, you know, it it was just fun. It was great because I called it gas money. It was just that little money that you always put that little that little cash in your pocket, and it wasn't serious, but I found that I really loved it. And I really loved it once I walked into the LA unit, got my uniform, got my books, got the manual, and I went, "This is really a thing. This is no joke." And I went, "I wanna be," and I see again, and I don't know when that happened for you, but for me personally, it was like, "Wait a minute. I played at a high level. I wanna referee at a high level." So I knew as soon as I joined my high school association, I go, "Oh, I'm not staying here. I wanna do the Poly Pavilion games. I wanna go to USC." I'm looking at all the big time schools in California. I wanna work those games. So for me, that's when it kinda changed for me, and I think for you, you had to, at that point, build your own path to get you to say, "Okay, where is Scott gonna fit in this big
Right.
scheme of where we are?" When did for you, when did that hit you?
That hit me, and to your point, it was great because I kinda branched out away from Palm Springs. I'm in San Diego, and I'm doing my own
Mhm.
thing, and it was, never had any pressure from home to do it, right? It was they were always there for
Wow.
me when it was time for me to take it seriously, but I was
Yeah.
also a young person, so I was kind of doing my own thing, and it wasn't until I settled down a little bit as an individual, and then I really at about 24 or so, made a push for it, and that's when having family involved in the business. Obviously, my network was good, but it
Mhm.
didn't help. I still had to go out there and be better than everybody else. And
Mhm.
I really felt like I could do it after I worked a couple of high school state finals. And same to your point, I knew that wasn't the room I wanted to be in forever. And with my knowledge of what happens at the Division One level, I knew there was a whole world out there waiting for me. And I used that high school as a stepping stone. I really, really caught the bug at about 24 years old, 23 years old. And that's when I really kind of went after it. And I went after it pretty vigorously. My first conference I got picked up in, I was 24 years old. And
Mm.
that was just the beginning of the end because I wanted it all. I wanted to work everywhere. I wanted to work every game. You know how it is when it's new and intoxicating, right? And I was very, very, very bitten by the bug at about 24.
Wow. But and it's interesting how you go, I got bit by that bug really early. But I think for you, because you got bit so early, you still had those growing pains of understanding that there is a process when you're trying to advance and you're trying to kind of find your way outside of your parents because you want people now to look at Scott Osborne and not go, "Oh, you're this son, you're this person's son, or this is your dad." You go, "No, no, no, no. I want people to look at me and go, this is the type of referee I want to be. This is the level I want to be at. And I'm serious about it. And I understand the work ethic and the dedication and the preparation that I have to put into this to make it." And not everyone is, not every single referee is always up to that challenge because, they feel like, well, I've been exposed and I should just be given my opportunities. And most people go, "No, we understand your pedigree, but you still have to go out and you have to find your own way." And no different like with me, because initially I'm looking at you and I'm like, this little cocky kid, he just, he's a good referee. I know he understands the game, but is he really taking this serious? I had to know
Right.
literally from Violet. I went, is he serious? And then the more I was around you and the more I got to know you and the more we start talking and we start talking shop and I end up bringing you in and you really, you had that transition because when you started, you went back east kind of to the Midwest and back east a little bit. And then when I took on and got more leagues, and then you and we kind of crossed paths and I said, "Hey Scott, you know what? I would love to have you, man. You know, come on over. I got you. Let's talk. Let's work on the schedule. Let's see what we can do." And you let me know. I am dedicated. I'm ready. I'm going to work hard and I want to work for you. And I said, my God, when literally being around you, you're infectious because you're like me. You're very passionate. You love it. It's almost like officiating in golf and your family are your three things. That's it. That's really, if someone says, they want to talk about your kids, you get excited. You want to talk about golf, you get excited. You want to talk about officiating, you go, "Oh my God, let's do it." And I think for personally, that's what I learned about you. And I go, I want this young man with me. I need this guy. He's a leader. He has a wealth of knowledge. But I think more so, I was so impressed with your work ethic and the way that you just carried yourself and the way I never forget one time you came to camp and you were not in the shape that I thought you should be. I'll be honest, because you know me, I'm real honest when it comes to my people. And I said, "Hey Scott," I said, I need for you to give me a little something on this physical fitness." You said, "I got you." And the next time that I saw you, you was like, chop, chop, bam. I said, okay, he's with me because you took what I said and didn't look at it like, oh, she's picking on me. Oh, she's trying to come at me. You said, no, if I need to be better, I'm going to be better. And you did that. I mean, literally, I don't even know how you didn't say, "Oh, I'm bothered by that," or "I can't do it," or you said, "I'll get it squared away. It'll be done." And you know what? I have never had to talk to you again about physical fitness because I knew that I said, this young man grew up in this. He knows what I'm talking about. And but we all have our little lacks in how we are. We get comfortable and, we just go, I'll get it. I'll get it taken care of. But we forget that we're examples for all of the young officials that's looking up to us. And when you get to the Division 1 level and you become a veteran and you're a crew chief and you're a leader, leading by example is one of the best things you can be. And I look at you right now, and that's all you do. I can call you for anything. I can say, "Hey, Scott, we have scrimmages in San Diego." "Got it, boss. No problem. You're going to send me. I get it. I get it. I'll get it taken care of." But I love that there was for a long time that I didn't have officials in San Diego. We only had a small few. I would never forget Terry McIntyre was the best thing cracking in San Diego. And what did you do? You took your family, you moved to San Diego, and when I tell you, referees just start coming out the woodworks. And I go, wow. You go, and I say, who's your mentor? Scott Osborne. I go, who's your mentor? Scott Osborne. I go, now this young man gets it. Because literally, this was an area of the country that we were lacking geographically with officials. But you know what? You said, I'm here. I'm a member of my association. I'm a Division 1 referee, and I have no issues with sharing the knowledge to officials that want to listen. Officials you took on your mentees and you helped them. And I commended you for that. I don't even know if I've ever told you that, but it was really, really nice to see how you just took that under your wing and said, you know what? No, San Diego's not going to be that area where we don't have no referees. We're not. And you took it on. And sure enough, we have so many really, really good, talented young officials that live in San Diego now. Because literally, we have San Diego State, University of San Diego, we have UC San Diego. I mean, we got schools in San Diego that are in really, really good conferences. So there is a need geographically for you and I to build up officials in that area because yes, it's everything tiered and officials can travel everywhere they want, but we know when it's all said and done, you have to have a certain number of referees geographically in whatever area we are. Period. Because it just makes it easier on me and it makes it easier on you guys because we all love getting those home games because then, when you're on the road a lot, you have those opportunities to go home, be with your family, take your kids to different games and have them hang out with you. Like for you, I've sent you to Hawaii. You're always having one of your kids with you. You take the family because that's what you grew up with. So you share the same things your parents gave to you with your children. And I think that's a beautiful thing. But I think more so where you have developed to be one of the top referees, not only on the West Coast, and I see, and I look at when I look at you guys are the best around the country, you know, and I'm looking at the development and the preparation and the example that you set. And you've shown all of that on every level, not just in officiating. I can't even get into you could probably go to be a golf pro if you wanted to, if you really, really wanted to take the time and do it because that's the dedication that you have. You have really helped grow in San Diego that was an area where we didn't have a lot of referees at all. And you took that on under your umbrella to be a mentor and to have mentees and to be more vocal in your high school association and allowing me to use you when we have scrimmages. I don't even have to worry. If I get a UC San Diego, USD, San Diego State, they need some referees, I just call Scott. I say, Scott, you go, boss, I got it covered. I'll send you who's working. No issues. If anything I need in the geographical area in that geographical area of San Diego, I know who my point man is, and that's you. But you didn't have to take that on. You could have just been like, you know what, I'm only worried about myself and I want to take care of myself. But you took on an area of mentoring and helping young officials in San Diego. And I commend you for that. That you didn't have to do that, but that comes from the pedigree, I think, personally, your
Yeah, and
upbringing.
I feel like there's a great deal of pride in representing your area, and you certainly don't, want anybody that's ever asked me for help. I've always said yes. The answer is always
Mhm,
yes, and
mhm.
and then how much time I have to dedicate to that might change, but anybody that's ever asked for help, the answer is always yes. And I feel like there's just so much information that was given to me. You mentioned Terry McIntyre in San Diego, right? I grew up with Terry. I grew up with Marianne Carp. There's just so many good examples, Jack Jones, the people that
Wow.
I was fortunate enough to be around, and that was their style. There was no secrets. They weren't holding anything back. Any information they had, they were willing to give to you. It was on
Mhm.
you to implement it, but they were happy to share the information. So it's funny now, I refer to my journey as 1 and 2.0 because 1.0, I was chasing something. I don't know what I was chasing, whether it was my parents' accomplishments or trying to outrun their shadow,
Hmm.
but I put the shirt on and I tried to become something maybe I wasn't. And I wasn't comfortable in my skin, or I was trying to be something that wasn't natural. And here in 2.0, I feel really comfortable with who I am. I am the same version of me everywhere I go. I am first person at the Top Golf that wants to give everybody swing tips and teach everybody that maybe hasn't hit a golf club to hit a golf club. Like you said, if you want to talk about positioning or you want to talk about court coverage, we're going to do it, but it's going to be the way I like to articulate it. It's not going to be cookie cutter. You got to stand on this spot. You got to do it this way. No, because not every situation is the same. So I've been very comfortable in who I am, and I'm also unlocking all these nuggets that maybe I was given when I was 12, 13, 14 that I wasn't ready to pass on or didn't know how to articulate. Version 2.0 of Scott in the second half of his career has been a lot of fun to be. And I just, I always look forward to being around people. I look forward to social settings. I look forward to the games. I look forward to the car rides. It's one thing to get the assignment, but it's another thing to leave the assignment
Mm.
feeling good about it.
How about this? I got a funny story for you, and I don't know if I ever told you this. This was before you start working basic ref school. This is interesting. You were at ref school at Penny Davis's camp, and Chauncey, which we already know is my right hand, left hand, my, everything. She was Penny's camp director. She runs everything behind the scenes, no different than like she does for basic ref school. And apparently you had a segment that you were doing in front of the class. Scott, do you know you impressed her so much that she called me from the back, from that room, that room she sits in at Penny's camp. And she said, lady, she said, Scott Osborne has to be on our basic staff. I said, huh? She said, lady, he's in front of this room and he's demonstrating and he's teaching and he got the video up and he got the pointer and he's putting himself in the position, showing the mechanics and the movements and where you should go. She says, but he got personality. He's just doing it with your style. You know how you say you kind of have to learn who you are. You impressed her so much. She said to me, she says, lady, he has to join basic ref school staff. And what do? I said, okay. Didn't even question her because she knows what I'm looking for. She saw in you that here's a guy that we need on our staff. He's energetic, he's passionate, he's knowledgeable, but she just found your style to be unique. And she says he was so engaging. She said, lady, he reminded me of you because, I'm real silly and, I come off the cuff. And I know that's kind of your personality too. Yeah, I can be like X's and O's, but that's really not my style. I like to have a little fun and like to put myself, in the screen and show people what direction you go. And I'm like you. I can get up there and do signals and because the staff, they used to always go, ooh, I want to steal that. I go, you can't steal that. That's mine. I said, you could work on it, but you ain't gonna get it. So I found that with her, she saw in you and your style of your presentation and how you presented and how you carried yourself. She said, this man has to be a part of our basic referee staff. And I didn't even hesitate. I called you. I think I even called you while you were at ref school. And I said, hey, Scott, you just did this presentation. Chancey loves you. And would you like to be a part of basic ref school? You know what? You didn't. I said, these are the dates. I said, you want to check and see if you're available? You said, no, I'm with you, boss. I'm available. And I said, well, that was easy. And you've been with me ever since.
Yeah.
You never hesitated. You never cared. You just said, no, I'm there. Whatever you want me to do, I'm with you. And I think for me, I've really taken the time to just learn and figure out who Scott Osborne is. And I think for me, I do that with all my staff. I really love getting to know you. I love finding out the person you are. I love knowing you're a family guy. I love, that you're passionate about golf as much as you're passionate about officiating because they kind of go hand in hand because most referees are very good golfers. A lot of people don't know that. They're very good golfers. Maybe because we have time to play in the off season or, on off days or who knows. But maybe it's the ins and outs of it, the challenge, because golf is really challenging and officiating is very, very challenging. And I think we love that competitiveness against fighting, trying to be the best version of ourselves. Because I think that's what golf does. Because it can,
Yeah.
you're out there, you in the course. You ain't, most people think you're playing against somebody, but you're not playing against anybody. you're playing against the course itself. And with officiating, you're not out there against anybody. It's you, your games, how you learn, how you take where you make mistakes and how you grow from those mistakes, how you can overcome having those plays in a game that you didn't like. Do you go in a tank or do you come out of a bag? Or do you say, you know what, I'm going to learn from all of this. And when I get to the next game, I'm going to be better than I was the last game. So I think in looking at you, you've taken all those different things from your childhood, from your parents, but you were able to make them your own. And I think that's the unique part of who you are and how you now have navigated yourself and how you're developing your own style and you know who you are. You know what type of referee you want to be. And now it's just a matter of the sky's the limit. You get more opportunities. You're one of my top people. And I am not afraid to tell you that. You're one of my top people. And I had the best, I don't even know if I told you this conversation. I literally, your mom and I, because she's a coordinator and I'm a coordinator, we shared some stories. And I never forget that it was last year, your mom and I, we were talking about a particular referee. And she said, Violet, she said, I just have to say to you that I am so happy that my son is under your umbrella. And I am so happy that he is doing well, that he is developing, and that he is growing. And I'm happy that you're putting this pressure on him to be one of the best. And I said, well, I said, I want you to know. I said, he with me until the wheels fall off. I said, because he got it. And I love it. And I don't even know if I've ever told you that story that your mom and I had just a brief encounter of being so happy for Scott Osborne and how she's such a huge supporter, but she doesn't interfere. She's just on the sidelines and she just let me know it's just so wonderful to see you grow and develop. And she's so proud of you. So I can honestly say that we've had those conversations from just two of us being coordinators and her being able to share some stories about you. And I just love it. So I don't even know if I've ever told you that, just so you know. Your mom and
Yeah.
I have always, we've had our powwow about Scott Osborne and in a really, really loving way of just seeing you develop. And it's just awesome. It's awesome. I commend you because, you didn't have to, you've just taken on every challenge that I've given you. And you don't care what it is. You don't care if it's what the particular game, a particular crew, what tournament, it doesn't matter. You take it in stride and you're always willing to learn and share. And I think for me, that's really what I just love about you, period. I just love that you're dedicated. And it doesn't matter whether it's officiating or whether it's golf, because you changed my swing in a couple of swings at Top Golf and my ball was curving. Now you gave me a couple of tips, because I'm competitive like the next person. I listened to you and I did it. And I go, oh my God, my ball is not curving anymore. And it was just real quick, boom, boom. And you said, boss,
Yeah.
you got it. It's
That's
funny.
it. It's very much like officiating, right? If you tell an official that they've got to change 65 things, they're not going to remember what the first thing is you told them to change. So I remember when you stood up over the golf ball and I said, "Okay, let's see this right here." And then, "Okay, one swing. All right, well, here's what I need you to do. Just one
Yep.
subtle little adjustment." And then it was like I invented fire and you go, "Holy smokes, look at that thing go." So it was
Well, I said
it was
something a
really
little different than that, but that's what.
well, it's okay.
Right,
It's okay. We were there.
right, right.
But to go back just really quickly full circle to the conversation with my mom and having that foundation that we talked about when I was young. Now it's really cool to have the full circle moment, right? And
Mhm,
having mom she watches every game that I work. And
mhm,
not from an observer standpoint, she's just proud of her son. But she'll be the
absolutely.
first one to tell me when I mess something up, and then there's no sugarcoating it either. So, to have that resource, especially at this stage in my career, somebody that's not going to tell me how great I am. And it's not just my mom. I met my wife through officiating and she'll be watching the games too. And she has, more selective words for me than my mother does. But when I
Mm,
mess a play up, my wife's the first one to call me and say, "What are you doing? What was that all about?" So just having this community around me that understands officiating, knows when, maybe I'm faking the funk, knows when I mess a play up, and I have a lot of people in my corner that have never been bashful to tell me when I've made a mistake. And
mm.
I've never been afraid to be vulnerable, to make a mistake in front of those people watching, has really elevated me as a person. It's elevated me in my career in officiating. It's made me a better father. It's made me a better husband. I don't know if it's made me a better golfer or not. I still could use a few more hours on the range,
You got it.
but I certainly do enjoy all of those things that I'm doing now. And it's just been it's been a wild ride. I've really enjoyed it, but like I said, the second half of this has been really liberating, really freeing, just to be myself and go out there and do my job. And I get to pass along some of the wisdom that I've picked up along the way from maybe things that I didn't do right or maybe things that I did do right. And I've been able
Right.
to dissect some of those decisions and really kind of move forward. And it's been a fun ride.
Well, you know what? How about that? We can close it out right there because you actually said it. You have 3 women in your life that can always keep you on point. And I think for all of us, we don't bite our tongue because I know I don't. And I know your mother personally, and I know she don't. And I know your wife, and I know she's going to tell you like it is. But here's what's interesting for you is that I'm sure you're getting things from all 3 of us, and they're so different. We're going to give you different things, which is very, very unique and very good because we're giving it to you in a way in which we only want the best for you. We only want you to be successful. And it's so nice for you to say that I'm going to take it and I want it. And it's not sugar coated because you know from a young child what it takes to make it as a big time Division 1 NCAA referee. And that passion, the dedication, the preparation, you got to study, you got to watch video, you got to be present. And that comes night in and night out. And the great thing for you is that I don't have to worry because your pedigree gave it to you as a young kid sitting in the back of the car traveling around the country with your dad. You have it. And and I have to say that I am thankful to have you be a part of my staff. I'm thankful to have you mentor. I'm thankful to have you as one of my leaders because, you're just a wonderful person to be around, and I just want you to know that I appreciate you, and I wanna thank you for taking the time to even just share, because this is nice. Because viewers need to know that everyone's path is different as far as where they're trying to get to. We all wanna be the big time referees that work the big games, but how did we get there? How does it happen? And most referees think it's easy, and it's not. Even for someone like yourself who was a young kid watching their parents do it, but Scott Osborne still had to find his way. You can't live off what your parents did. You got to now get out there and make it for yourself, and you have no issues with that. So I just want to say I thank you. I appreciate you, and I am honored to have you be a part of VP12. I'm honored to have you be one of my staffers for Basic Referee School. It is a joy to have you be a part of both of those organizations. You know what? The sky is the limit for Scott Osborne. There's no question that I'm just waiting for that next big thing with you because it's coming. I already know it's coming because you're so dedicated and you're a good young referee and you have so much ahead of you. Because you started so young. And see, that's the other advantage for you. Not a lot of referees start that young, that figure it out, and you have figured it out. And it's just been a wonderful time just hearing the stories and being able to share. I love it. I want you to kind of tell us where we are with the play, what's going on with it, and then we'll do a little breakdown like we would do if you called me after a game, Scott. Shoot.
Absolutely. Yeah. So we have a conference tournament game. So obviously a little bit, high pressure. Not that every game doesn't have high pressure, but
Mhm.
elimination game. So we got San Diego State versus UNLV. And this is a great play for a lot of reasons. I was able to take this play on the road with me last summer, and I was able to teach this play at camps from the high school level, however you want to slice it, the 100 level, 200 level, PhD level, because there's a lot of stuff going on here. So
Mhm.
if we want to run the play through really quickly one time, we have a transition play, and go ahead and pause it. So just that little piece alone, right? When we're breaking down film, that ball comes down the right side of the floor. I'm transitioning from trail to lead. And
Mhm.
in order ultimately to get this play officiated correctly or get the best opportunity to referee this play correctly, you got to do things the right way. So this play, we get to the close down position immediately, and the only thing we've got going on this play now is we've got a post matchup that's going to happen on the opposite block. So
Correct.
right away we've got to have we got to have a quick transition or a quick rotation. So
Yep.
really no
Go
hesitation here. I
accelerated
just
pace.
take accelerated pace, and then this play is going to be a point of contact play. Right, we got a shot, and this isn't block charge play. This isn't body contact. This is going to be elbow to
Correct.
wrist, and I
And
mean you
here's
can
God,
see
let me
the
just say something, because see, I see your head, and this is what we do when we, showing the country who people who don't understand officiating when we're looking at this is that I love the way you said that we were in good position, but we know that those two post players on that opposite block, you knew that you had to get there. I think you could have had a little quicker accelerated pace, but you got there, and I love that when we pause the video and you look at your head. See how you went straight once you were able to accept the play, and I love that our center didn't go anywhere. They stayed right there as well. Center has a good open look on the play, but I love that your head goes up to point of contact to make sure that White is able to get that jump shot off without getting hit, because that's your number one priority right now. And it's nice that our center did a nice job. That's who is going to now become our new trail, but they didn't rush to leave either. They stayed there. Our center, our trail going down the center comes down. They were free throw line extended. So right now, our court coverage, we got the play covered. No question. Take it from there.
a- absolutely. So right, we have a transition play, rotation. We got a point of contact, jump shot. We're clean, and now we've got a loose ball and rebounding essentially coverage. And oftentimes we'll see a lot of officials start to come down the floor after that one and maybe lose a good angle. Take it back a step further, Violet. Had we not rotated early, we're looking at
Hmm.
that play from another angle and it doesn't look good. So now we're
Hmm.
going to have a loose ball play here. And now, before we get into the other angle of this play, if you're looking at this from Neutral's vantage point, and something that I put together a presentation and we talked about this was I met a lot of my checklists to get this play right, what I thought.
Right. Hmm.
I rotated, I'm looking in the right place. But
Right.
Violet, you've been there too, right? Now we got a player holding her face, and I'm going, "Holy smokes!
And
What did I miss?"
And it's so fast. And here's what's crazy
It's
is
fast.
that you sitting here, look, you got your eyes on this play, and she picks the ball up and she turns, and then all of a sudden, White is on the ground, and you go,
Right.
"Wait a minute, how, how did that happen?" Because it's not like you're not on it. You know what I mean? It's not like you have a close look. It's not like you're not there in good position, because you are. It goes to show you how quick plays can happen,
Absolutely.
that you just go, I know something happened, but a part of this I'm not sure about. So you can't do anything other than
Right.
steer on the ground, stop it to go, I now gotta either process this. And I love the way you stopped everything, put your hands up, and said, "Hold up, let me talk to my partner." First thing you do, and I love it, you put your hands up, let everybody know, "Okay, hold on. Everybody go to their benches and let me get to my partners." And you can take it from there.
Yeah. So from this point, gonna go talk to my partners. We're having a conversation. She's obviously down on the ground and she doesn't get up.
Mhm.
So we're gonna go to the monitor. We're gonna go look at a potential unobserved. Um,
Correct.
and on this play, Um, well, I guess we can go further, but that's the conversation that we had as a crew, right? So kill the
Mhm.
play. This player's down. She appears to be injured. So we're gonna have a conversation. What do we have, right? Where's the ball? Who's got the ball? Where's it gonna go? And
Right,
what are we
right.
reviewing?
Now I have a question. Did you ask when you went? Now it's funny. It's interesting how you went to your partner over in the C position, because that was the closest official to possibly help you on this play, because there's nothing else for either one of you to look at but this play. Did you ask them, "Hey, did you see anything?" Or were you guys now just saying, "We got an unobserved. We're gonna get the players to their benches, and we're gonna have a conversation and go to the monitor"? What was that conversation there?
Yeah, I didn't ask him what he saw. From that side of the floor, I knew it would have been very difficult for him to see
Mhm.
anything on this side of the play.
Okay.
So I just said we have potential unobserved, and we need to look at this play.
Okay. So we obviously you send them to their benches. We go to the monitor, and then what do we have?
So if you pull it up here to this is going to be probably the best angle that we have on this play.
It is. Yes.
So we're going to see this play come through here. And if you can go ahead and play it, pause it. Just pause it back there before she kind of gathers the ball on the ground. It's a very
Okay.
interesting play. So as you see 33 white come in here for a loose ball, they could potentially graze heads right here, foreheads.
Right.
Conclusive, inconclusive, not 100%. But what makes this play very difficult is that the elephant that we, so to speak, in the room is this swing through, right?
Yep.
33, or excuse me, 31 takes the basketball from the ground, brings it up over her head,
Yep.
and everybody, and you were there, you were at the game, right? Everybody in the arena thought she got hit with that elbow. Everybody.
Yes.
But
No,
but when
clearly,
you
I'm
look,
like, "Oh my god, she didn't hit her with the elbow, we gonna have a flagrant, she's down."
yeah,
That's what I'm thinking in my head
right.
because obviously and they're showing the replay until you see and it's funny how angles are, because when you see the first replay, it's puzzling, but when you see the second replay and see right there, you can see where their heads are almost like touching each other. So you
Yep.
go, "Oh my goodness, it wasn't the elbow that make where she's
And
holding it was the 2 of them hitting heads
yeah.
to knock her
And what
down."
was really interesting about this play to me, because we're gathering intel, right? As we're walking up to a player that's holding their head, I'm gathering intel. I'm trying to figure out what's going on because if you pause it right here and keep it here, you can see that I've got an open look on this play, and you can see that I'm looking directly through where I should be, and I have kind of the same angle as this camera does, where you can see space.
Mhm.
And as she goes to grab her head, she grabs her head early, and she grabs her head on the right side with her right hand, which is
Right.
very interesting to me. And then as she goes to fall, she grabs her head with the left hand. So I'm trying to figure out where did she get hit and what did she get
Yeah.
hit with and this is in real time because I don't
Right.
see that they maybe collide heads on the initial. So it's very interesting. So play this through and you'll see how the defender changes her mind on where she gets hit in her head because she wasn't sure because I think she thought she was going to get hit with one of those elbows as well.
Correct. Yep. Or she probably, initially was thinking that's what was gonna happen, not knowing that when they both bent down and go to get up is where they tap, you know? And
Yeah, and she wasn't quite sure where
unfortunately
she got hit, but the graze felt like more of a hit.
yeah. Yeah. And it's funny, unfortunately, Black's going, "What's her problem?" Because again, it didn't even affect Black at all. Black's looking down. You see how even when you blew your whistle, the girl in black, she's holding the ball going, "Why you what's wrong? I didn't do nothing. I'm holding my ball. I got the ball. I didn't do nothing to her," which is so true. She really didn't. It was just the circumstances, and this is where we can say you could have incidental contact on a play on contact to the head. Because I had a coach ask me this yesterday when they said, it's possible to have incidental contact. I thought because several people still think with our rules is that anytime you have contact with the head, you should have a flagrant foul. And I say no. That is not true. I said, now, maybe 3 or 4 years ago, we used to have in our rule that any contact to the head was a flagrant foul. And then after we did a study and we started watching plays like this, we found out that you can't just automatically assume that just because that someone's holding their head, that anybody, that an elbow hit them. Because in this instance, if we had the rule about contact to the head, we would have had to upgrade this play. And it wouldn't be fair to the team in black because it is incidental that when they both bend down, they bump heads. And it has nothing to do with an elbow or nothing to do with swinging of her elbow. It was just circumstances and it's unfortunate. And I know that's hard for a coach or fans to be able to digest, but it's really the truth when you look at the video. Because one thing we've learned, Scott, and I know you know this, video will tell the story. It's not going to lie. You get the right
No
angle.
doubt.
Now, sometimes we don't get that angle because of we're not responsible for how every individual arena puts their cameras, where they put them. We're just looking for that right one. But the good thing with the tournament is we have a lot of cameras. Everything is on the program feed. So you were able to get this, I guess we call it our baseline look when you can look down the chute and to see that the two heads bump, which makes this purely just an incidental contact play where there's nothing on it. And I know
Right.
initially it's kind of tough to go tell a coach that unfortunately we have nothing on this play because they both just butted heads when they both were trying to go for the ball, and it's the truth.
Right.
But when they go back and look
Yeah.
at the video, that's all they're going to see. And they're going to know that, wow, the officials made the correct decision because we were allowed to get the right angle on the play, which is the best thing and which is, something that we can learn from. And I really like that you said, I have used this play in plenty of my pre-games to just talk about an atypical, to to not just automatically assume that when the kid went down holding in her face, because just think, you could have instantly did that and came up with our intentional foul. And then you would have had to go to the monitor and go, oops, that's
Right.
not what I wanted to do. But there's another reason why in our training and in our discussions that we take our time, we just stop the play, we make sure the player's okay, we clear the floor, we go to the monitor, and you can have the discussion and pull the play up and, kind of redo it and look at it to make the best decision for what you see on the video. And in this case, you guys, obviously, it was the head, no elbow, incidental contact. And you got to go tell two coaches that we're not going to do anything with this play. It's just circumstance, incidental contact. We're going to put the ball back in play at the point of interruption, and we're going to play on. Did you get any
Absolutely.
pushback on that one from the coaches?
We We got zero pushback from the coaches on that at all. It was very easy to articulate, but I think your point there is probably it is the best point that we teach this all summer long that the fundamentals, the fundamentals, the fundamentals, the basics, the basics, the
Yep.
basics. If we are in the wrong
Mhm.
if we referee that through the paint from lead, if we did not rotate, then you're looking at the back of that play and like you said, you might be coming up intentional foul on the spot, flagrant foul on the spot. And
Mhm.
now we got a bigger problem because we threw a guess on something because we didn't work the system. We didn't have the open look. We didn't trust the system. So I think this is just a very good play to look at from a fundamentals perspective and why we do things 100 times in a row for the one time that we need it.
I love it. I love it. And you know what? With that, that is the nugget that we can share and that we receive from this particular play. And with that, I want to say that, you know what? Thank you so much, and I just want our viewers because I always give just a little bit of homework, nothing major, just to know that how about this? I said for all of us, the great thing is we want to share our video, we want to share atypical situations. We want to have these discussions because this is how we learn. And the great thing is that in this, with you sharing this with your staff, you're going to help your staff in your pregame to learn how to handle atypicals, how to go to the monitor, how to communicate with your coaches, how to communicate with your partners. So it has so many different components to it that you can just learn from before we even walk out on the floor with your crew. And I really like that you said that you use this in your pregame. And I'm going to give our viewers a little nugget. I said, how about this? I said, we want to take our preparation, we want to take the hard work, we want to take situations from games and we want to incorporate those situations in our pre-games so that going forward, we can do better with handling atypical situations. And I think for you, you know what? You have taken being a young kid, being around your parents, being around officiating, but you've taken the preparation, you've taken the dedication, and you've taken coming into your own. And I say this to referees, you have to study, you have to prepare, and you just have to know that we're not perfect and we're going to make mistakes. But it's how you learn from those mistakes, how you want to be a better person and you want every single night to be better than you were the night before. And one thing I can say, Scott Osborne, you do that on a consistent basis, and I thank you for it. And you know what, viewers? Take a little look at some atypical situations. Clip the plays, and when you're with your crews, have those discussions. Have discussions with your friends. Have discussions with your mentor groups. Put these plays up. Don't be afraid to share, even if we did it incorrectly, because you can bring this to your mentee groups or your mentors and you can get nuggets and learn from them because that's the objective. So I commend you for sharing. I commend our staff for being able to articulate and being able to share and being able to not be afraid to be vulnerable, to show that we're all learning. We need video. We want to do better. And I just want to say thank you so much for our players to play and our keeping it real segment. And want everybody to know, you know what, moving forward, just always remember the play is the play. Peace out, everybody. Have a good evening.